no human in the loop. This is a thankless job that nobody likes to do. A lot of practices just don't bother to do it, and then the claim gets rejected, and then they're just not getting the money. And so that's an example of it's going to become more invisible. It'll almost be like another team member rather than paying your biller internally to do that or hoping that someone does that. It's going to be automated.
We won't be replaced by AI, but a practice that does not use AI will definitely be replaced by a practice that does.
We partnered up with the American Optometric Association, and we launched what we call AI guidelines. So we took the official clinical guidelines from the AOA, and that's now built directly into the chart within Barti and can be queried and asked questions very easily in the exam. We make it really easy to do the training. It's genuinely 10 times easier to learn, and we handle all the data migration end to end. The data migration has gotten a lot better compared to what people were maybe used to a few years ago, and we're actually able to get more data than any of our other competitors at migration, and we do it faster than anyone else.
Peter Drucker once said, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nerdy Optometrist, a podcast channel for all things eye care, and this is your host, Ukti Vora. Before we jump in, make sure to follow Nerdy Optometrist so you can stay up to date to all the new episodes. So every time I hear a quote or saying that talks about predicting the future, I always think of people who actually kind of roll up their sleeves and just get into it. And today I have a pleasure to chat with Colton Calandrella, who is the co-founder and CEO of Barti. He's one of the person who has literally kind of dived in to make our lives as eye care professional very comfortable. So let me start diving and talking more about what he's done and let me give you a quick introduction. He's one of the rare founders with both heart and sharp strategy. He worked at Bain building software for Fortune 500 companies, created an AI venture inside their accelerator, launched a startup that reduced airport wait times. Yes, every time we know like how much you're going to wait, well, that's been created by him. And even started his career as a teacher. I don't know how he's keeping up with things, but he has done pretty much all, helping high school students navigate math and special education. With Barty, he is bringing that same sense of purpose and problem solving to eye care. And I'm really excited to dive into the story behind it. So, very warm welcome, Carlton, to this episode and the Nerdy family.
Couldn't be more happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me and such a great intro. I really appreciate it.
So, you have pretty much done it all in the tech space. And I just want to go back to how did it all start? Like, how and why did you jump into eye care? This doesn't seem to be your regular domain.
Yeah, yeah, I've fallen deeply in love with eye care, and it really goes back to, for me, my consulting days. So as you mentioned, I worked at Bain, which is one of the top management consulting firms in the world. And while there, I cut my teeth in healthcare. I was looking at and helping healthcare companies and looking at a variety of healthcare technologies. So specifically EMRs and different industries, RCM businesses, all kinds of tech-enabled services. What I saw there was that most doctors hate their software, but eye doctors have it worse than almost any other kind of specialty. And the reason for that is, unlike almost every other kind of specialty, there's been no innovation in this space in almost 20 years. There's been no new company trying to deliver better software, specifically EHR software, the main system of record software, in over 20 years. And there's this huge vacuum, and there's a huge appetite for someone to bring much better quality technology, cutting edge technology to this space. And so if you compare it to, for example, dentistry, there's 3 or 4 well-funded high-tech startups that are trying to build a better dental software and a dental practice management software. For autism therapy, there's 3 or 4. For physical therapy, there's 2 or 3. There's been no new startup targeting eye care in the EHR problem in almost 20 years. So that immediately caught my attention of the classic. It's an industry very ripe for disruption. There's a lot of pain. More specifically, I started testing this hypothesis with data. I cold called 150 eye care practices around the country. And I asked one question, scale from 0 to 10, how likely would you be to recommend your current EHR? And the results were dismal. Most people hate their software. There's a lot of pain about the 100 clicks it takes on average to document a single routine eye exam. And in the legacy systems. And there was a very clear need I saw. I eventually teamed up with my co-founder, Dr. Kelly Kai, who's an optometrist. She's felt the pain very acutely herself. And so that's part of our secret sauce is we have, a doctor who's in charge of our product development. She leads our product and engineering team and has obviously been in the trenches using a variety of different kinds of software and a paper chart practice and knows the wants and needs very well of our clients. So that's initially how I got in is seeing this opportunity, hearing the pain from people that I talked to, and then really, teaming up with Kelly to try and do something about it.
I think that's fantastic. It's just your personality of like so problem solving, I think did come handy for the eye care industry. And I am always curious about the name. Like, I really want to know what's like the story behind the name Barti because, okay, you realize the problem, you fell in love with it. And I keep telling this to everyone. Once you're in eye care, you cannot go back. So I think that's the history repeats here. So tell me
Yeah.
the story behind the name and like, when did you decide, okay, this is it? Like, tell me like the initial days because you're competing with EHRs, right? Which were already established. As you said, they've been here for like 20 plus years. So
Yeah.
talk about those initial days of when you decide, let's go for it. This is the name. This is how we're going to do it.
Yeah. So we want to be really a generational shift in innovation that this industry sees. We want to be an exponential increase in the types of technology that is available and the types of software products that are available to eye care providers. That was our mission. And ultimately, it's all in service of the providers. It's all in service of the patients and the doctors that are serving them. And, specifically, we're targeted to eye care. We only focus on eye care. And, ultimately, we're trying to help doctors do their job of treating and curing eye disease. And so the name Barty came up actually as we were thinking about what's a mythological reference to eye care or eye disease. And it's actually a biblical reference. There's a lot of people in the Bible who are cured of blindness. There's a lot of blind people that get cured of blindness in the Bible. Only one of them has a name, and that person's name is Bartimaeus. And so Barty comes from Bartimaeus, and it sort of evokes that idea of, hey, we're trying to help ultimately get to, improving the eyes, helping doctors to improve the eyesight of their patients, cure eye disease. Yeah, so it's a great question. It's amazing. A lot of people don't ask that, but we also wanted something that was a little, easy to remember, a little different. In our industry, as you know, there's a lot of, I don't want to say puns, but there's a lot of sort of play on words related to eyes as a lot of the names, and so we want to be a little bit more distinctive.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing, even for me, was like when I was deciding the name for my podcast was anything around eye and eye care and eyes. And then I'm like, no, that's not me.
Yes,
So
yes,
I
that's
think
it's yeah,
that's going back to the question of lie, why and how and what does it mean for us?
yeah, exactly. And so, we've gotten great reception on the name. People find it very memorable, and then when people ask that story, usually people are like, oh, that's kind of an interesting story. So
Yeah, because I'm sure even I didn't know about this story. So it's great to even learn why
yeah,
we know, okay, why did you choose that name? So I think that's really fun.
yeah,
And as you initially mentioned, there are already a lot of solutions out there, which we are aware and people are using it. So what makes Barty difference when you're talking about this shift? What are the things that you decided won't be part of this and this is what I want to aim towards? So tell me
yeah,
a little more about that shift that you're trying to bring in.
yeah, absolutely. So in one sentence, the thing that makes Barty unique is we're 10 times more innovative than anything else available, any of the other players out there. What do I mean when I say innovative? Well, there's two big reasons that really set us apart. And these are the two big reasons that people are choosing to switch to Barty today. One, we've decided to be the first full operating system for eye care. So we're not just the EHR, we're a lot more than that, meaning we're really a business in a box. And this is, I think, a very innovative idea where you don't need to rely on third parties, plugins, and really what's the Frankenstein tech stack, as we call it, most practices wrestle with today, where they have up to 10 disconnected vendors that we can now replace with one unified platform. So, for example, we're the only system that has the built-in phone, so you don't need a separate VoIP solution or texting solution. We're the only ones that have built-in marketing tools like reputation management and email marketing for patients and expense management, even things to manage the finances for the practice and the spending of the practice. And so what that means is that the typical owner is able to unify all their data, which makes it a lot easier for their staff. It gets all their data in one place instead of different silos, and usually saves them money too compared to paying for all these different vendors separately. So that was a very innovative idea that's very hard to do. And the reason other companies don't want to do that is it's taking a lot of time and money to build out all that functionality. But ultimately, it's what I also would want as an owner to not have all these different tools to log into. The other piece, when I say we're 10 times more innovative, we are now setting the tone for the rest of the industry when it comes to innovation and new products. So specifically with AI. AI is really the buzzword everywhere right now. We're really leading the charge there. So we're the first ones to have an AI scribe. We've had that for over a year and a half. It lets the doctor talk during the exam and it fills out the chart notes for them. But also, when I say that we're 10 times more innovative, we genuinely move 10 times faster than our competitors. So we now have more functionality after being around for about 3 years than most of our competitors have had after being around for 20 or 30 years. And so, while there's most of the other options in the market are just now starting to think about an AI scribe, we already are moving on to other AI products. For example, we partnered up with the American Optometric Association and we launched what we call AI guidelines. So we took the official clinical guidelines from the AOA, and that's now built directly into the chart within Barti and can be queried and asked questions very easily in the exam. So we're moving much faster. We're launching new things that no one else has. And that's really the core DNA. We're based in Silicon Valley, so we combine the industry expertise with really this very tech forward mentality. I think the final thing I'll add is I mentioned the AOA. We're also very excited to partner with them very closely. So we're the first business to ever receive a direct investment from AOA Excel, which is a subsidiary of AOA, and be the first software to be endorsed by the AOA. We partner very closely with them. We support independent practices. That's our whole mission. And so, if you're an AOA member and you want to be supporting the organization, then supporting Barti is also a win-win there. So, and we're going to keep doing that. So we're going to continue to move very quickly. That's where we put a lot of our financial resources is innovation, art, research and development. And the exciting thing is we're just getting started. So again, what we've done in just a few years. We have so many exciting ideas, and each month we're launching 3 to 5 like major new features, products, or updates. And so within a year or two, we're going to be on a whole different level.
I think this is like very exciting. I have a lot of questions, but before I ask you those questions, I want to kind of at least acknowledge and say that I'm really happy that you've taken care of the ethical part of it. So if anybody is like, looking or thinking about AI into their EHR because you've been following these guidelines and you're working closely to make sure that we're following that, I'm sure that could be like one less thing for the doctors to think or worry about. But I actually, with everything that you said, as exciting as it is, I have like two really important questions for you. I'm going to
Yeah.
start with the first one. We started the talking about the pain point, right? Like you're trying to resolve the pain, but sometimes I might feel like changing from like say 5 different technologies or services that I'm using to changing it to one could be a pain for me because now I have to learn an entire new technology. Like I have to train the staff, I have to get everybody on board who is already used to that broken system, but they've created their comfort around it. So how hard or easy it is based on your experience or your customer's experience on switching from like 4 to 1 or 5 to 1? Like, tell me a little more about that.
Yeah. I joke that Barty is not in the software business. We're in the change management business because this is the biggest challenge that we face when talking to doctors. So the number one thing I hear all day, every day is I don't like my current setup. I love what I see with Barty, but I still am nervous about changing. My staff is going to mutiny and kill me if they have to learn something new. I'm worried about the data migration, et cetera. So, and unfortunately, folks have often had a bad experience when they have switched before. There's a lot of scar tissue where they've heard promises. They've heard a lot of EHR companies overpromise and underdeliver before. We have invested a tremendous amount of resources into simplifying that process. The biggest way that we make it easy is we are genuinely, without exaggeration, 10 times easier to learn. And we measure that by training time. Most legacy systems require 40 plus hours of training time to ramp up a new office member.
Yeah.
With Barty, it's a fraction of that. It's 3 to 4 hours and they're going to be up and running. So truly, last week we just had a great success story. We had a practice that signed up with us on Wednesday and without exaggeration was using it on Friday, was live and onboarded. And now that's definitely, usually it's not that fast, but it is possible to do it that quickly. Another one of our best examples, Dr. Keith Polish, AccuVision in the Carolinas, has almost 40 doctors across 20 plus locations. And he migrated all of the doctors and all their old software to Barti within a month with zero training for the doctors. I was talking to him. I said, "Hey, when are we going to schedule the training for the doctors?" He's like, "No, they're already up and running. They already know how to use it." I was like, "Wow, it's really that easy, especially for the providers where there's almost no training required." So a lot of the challenge is just getting people to believe us when we say that, to be honest, because and they don't want to hear it from us. So we try to really just emphasize on the testimonials from our customers who have actually taken that leap. And we also are excited. We just went live with the outgoing president of AOA, Dr. Stephen Reed, and his practice is a large multi-location practice. And he said, "I was most worried about the data migration, and it turned out to be way better than what I thought it would be." So we just try to surface those results because people want to hear from their colleagues, not so much from us, to be honest. But yeah, we make it really easy to do the training. It's genuinely 10 times easier to learn. And we handle all the data migration end to end. The data migration has gotten a lot better compared to what people were maybe used to a few years ago. And we're actually able to get more data than any of our other competitors. We get more data in that migration and we do it faster than anyone else. So the short answer is it's definitely still a major undertaking, but we make it very easy. We hold people's hands. Everyone has a dedicated account rep at Barti that gives them as much time as they need to get them up and running. So I always tell folks, and then the other thing, and we can maybe talk about this, is making sure people understand the true cost of the status quo. Because like you said, it can be easy to say the devil I know versus the devil I don't, but really how much money are you leaving on the table? How much time are you wasting? How many hours at the end of the night are you spending finishing your charts because you're not willing to take a short-term change?
I am actually very happy and like surprised in a very good way that there has been so much adoption, and it's so easy when you talk about like providers just getting on it and be like, yeah, I can figure it out. It's not hard. And cutting that training time to half, I'm sure that is definitely something that's worth looking into. And I'm going to kind of share something very special that Barti has done for the listeners of Nerdy Optometrist. So if you are in a doubt and not sure what it is, I would highly recommend that you can just click in the link in the description, use the promo code NERDY, and book a demo to see it yourself. And you'll be able to get a $50 gift card just for seeing the demo. So I think that's great. And a reason for everyone to really test it out and see it themselves.
Yes, exactly.
But I'm going to now jump into my second question. I mean, this is great, right? Like I switched into a new system or I decide to take a demo, I'm convinced. But then you also talk about the other piece, which is AI, which is great as well as it's scary and it can be intimidating for a lot of people. So tell me more about like you have so many plugins available, but do you feel that the users or your doctors are feeling intimidated with it? Because AI is a huge thing. There's AI everywhere and you just don't know which one to go with.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. And like you said, there's a lot of uncertainty people have around it. There's some fear around it, right? Generally, people are very excited about the AI scribe because it's such a clear pain point that,
Yeah.
there's no concept of it replacing doctors. It's just about, hey, charting is the least favorite part of my job. And it comes between me and the patient, right? Because patients also hate the doctor having their back turned, finishing their notes or doing their notes in the exam room. If you looked at, and we have graphs of how many people are using our AI features, and it looks like this. I forget if I'm going the right way or not, but it's a straight up into the right. And so month over month, we're seeing more and more people take advantage of it and get more and more comfortable with it. Usually, the first time somebody uses it, they say, "Wow, that was easier than I thought." Doesn't require much work, and that's our view: is the best technology should almost be invisible. It should almost work like magic, right? And actually, the less time you spend in Barti, the better, which is kind of counterintuitive. But we actually want people spending as little time as possible in the software so they can spend more time treating the patients. I think there is something I'm very passionate about is helping push the industry forward. Because honestly, tech adoption is not one of the strong suits generally for optometry. I'm always shocked, even as excited as I am about AI, I always have to remind myself, 2 weeks ago, I had a doctor say, "Do I really need a website?" Right? I mean, 80% of the people we sign up don't offer digital intake forms. They're
Yeah.
doing paper clipboards when you walk in for your practice. Most practices don't have online scheduling or texting capabilities with their patients. These are not new technologies, right? These are 10, 15, 20 years old. And, the adoption has not always been there. And so we're excited, though, to be building the tools that are very tailor made for eye care. Part of the reason for that lack of adoption is a lot of the tools available to eye care, including AI tools like off the shelf AI scribes, they're not tailored for eye care. They're usually meant for another specialty. Like we get kind of dentistry as leftovers, to be really
Yeah.
blunt about it. And so that's what gets me really excited is we're building this just for eye care. For example, our AI scribe, the key differentiator is it actually fills out all of the different fields in the ocular exam. So if you say LASIK scarring in the left eye, it knows exactly where to put it in the cornea or within the ocular exam fields. And so, yeah, I think the long story short, we've seen a lot of excitement around it. We've seen a ton of adoption. That is moving very quickly. So, like a year ago, the general medical field, the AMA had a survey. I think something like 25% of all doctors had used some kind of AI, and a year later it was over 50%.
Mhm.
So we're starting to see that similar trend play out for optometry.
Absolutely. I'm sure even in our like day-to-day life, there are so many things in where we use like Copilot, ChatGPT, or Meta AI, just and not even realizing that now it has become an integral part of your communication, right?
Yes, exactly. And I'm always excited and also a little surprised. Oftentimes I talk to people who've never used ChatGPT, right? Or just started used it for the first time the other day. And I'm like, you're gonna be so excited when you realize you never have to write a job description again by yourself. You never have to, spend a bunch of time crawling through forums to find a niche answer on tech support. Yeah, there's so many good use cases for it.
Absolutely. But one other question I want to understand, you mentioned Barti is very customizable. It is built for the eye care industry, but it could, as I mentioned, it could be overwhelming for some of the users, right? Is there a way for them to kind of step in gradually, or is it like a full package? Is that something that you can start off with? Say for someone, I actually went for an eye exam recently, and I was like shocked that they literally had the paper and the clipboard and things, and I was
Yeah,
like, no digital intake form. So for
yeah,
someone who is starting there, and you tell them like now you have an AI scribe, it might be like a huge shift.
yeah,
Can there be like more step in process when they're signing up for Barti or like switching into
yeah.
the system?
Absolutely. We always tell folks, we offer all of it and Barty's best together, but you can keep using certain things if you want, if you really like it, or if you want to wait.
Hmm.
And so we try to start with the highest value things, the things that will give an immediate ROI and immediately save time and get that. And then that gets people excited. They're like, oh, okay, this was easier than I thought. Oh, we're starting to see, the intake form is sent out automatically. We don't have to do anything. And then it's just entered into the chart automatically. Like we don't have to copy the clipboard results into the thing. Like we love this. And then that gets them more willing to try out maybe other things that are a little bit of a bigger jump. Generally, though, we do recommend people rip off the band-aid, where if
Yeah.
you're going to change, it's good to just do it all at once. And then that way, again, you're seeing all the benefits of having everything unified. Where if you're using our invoicing and payment processing, you eliminate double entry of the credit card machine every time you check someone out. That also lets you use our text to pay feature. So you can now text a link to a patient that owes you money. They click that link on their phone, they do Apple Pay, boom, it updates the balance. And so, Barty is better together, and that's also when you're going to save the most money. But yeah, absolutely. We tell folks, especially people who are maybe more apprehensive, hey,
Yeah.
let's start small, let's get the quick wins, and then we can always roll out the other things over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, thinking from a practitioner, like I have been on the tech side, and then being an optometrist, I would love to get it all, and I would love people to adopt it. But sometimes it's like, oh, maybe I want to kind of step in gradually and just wanted to understand if that's an option available.
Yeah. Yeah. And we want to be partners. We want to be long-term partners. And so that means also, yeah, tailoring into what the specific needs are of the practice.
So I actually also want to step into more digging like what's in the future of eye care when you think about when you talk about innovation, you already have like some of the basic pain points covered up, right? Like you already know that what are the pain points, you're making it easy, connecting and giving all-in-one solution. But when you talk about future of eye care and because you are at the forefront of it, tell me about, what do you envision? How is Barty contributing or what's Barty's North Star?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think at a very high level, if you think about the future of eye care, we do think that AI will transform every part of the current practice operations and every part of the provider and the patient journey. In other words, it's actually very hard to think of a part of the patient journey that won't be impacted by AI in the next 1, 2, 3 years. So everything from an AI receptionist to answer the phone at the beginning, all the way through to follow up with the patient. For the doctor, obviously we have the AI scribe, but then there's going to be other clinical tools. So, for example, this isn't something that Barti offers, but there's a lot of image management tools available now for analyzing OCT images
Yeah.
using AI. And so, virtually every part of the practice operations will be impacted by AI eventually. I think some of the major themes that we see that we're really excited about. The first one is, again, software in general will become more invisible. It'll become more in the background. There will be less friction, and actually, providers and staff will be spending less time in software platforms because so much of it will be automated. It will work better, faster, and more directly unified with their workflows. And so, the specific thing that will unlock that is you've probably heard of the phrase of agentic AI or AI agents. And so this is the other big shift is people will start to think of software more as another team member rather than a tool to be
Yeah.
used or even just a place to capture information. And so by that I mean again, an agent for insurance verification and patient collections. So an agent that proactively texts every patient on your schedule, hey, please send us a picture of your insurance card. Takes that information, automatically verifies it with the insurance, comes back to the patient, hey, this expired. Do you have another one? Or, yep, this looks great. I'm going to update the schedule for the staff to know that this is verified insurance. No human in the loop. This is a thankless job that nobody likes to do. A lot of practices just don't bother to do it. And then the claim gets rejected and then they're just not getting the money. And so that's an example of it's going to become more invisible. It'll almost be like another team member rather than paying your biller internally to do that or hoping that someone does that. It's going to be automated. What does that really mean? It really means that actually doctors are going to spend more time with patients. Patients are going to have a much better experience. And most importantly, what I get really excited about is the playing field gets leveled between an independent practice and much larger chains, for example. And it actually becomes easier to launch a cold start than it ever was before because you don't need 5 staff members to do everything. You might need 2 or 3. And it means that you're able to focus on what you do best as a doctor, which is usually taking care of the patients, the clinical decisions, and really providing a great patient experience. So really, Barty continues to be at the forefront of that. We are going to infuse AI into, again, every part of the process. We're working on that verification agent I just mentioned, the AI receptionist to answer phones. For example, right now, 30% of all calls made to a practice go unanswered.
Yeah.
So 1 in 3 times when a patient says, I have an issue or I want to give you my money, it goes unanswered and that patient has to move on. I just had a friend who said they had a corneal ulcer, this emergency situation, and they had to call literally 12 different practices just to get an answer and to find,
Wow.
an appointment. And so things like that will be a thing of the past. And ultimately, especially if you're a practice owner, a lot of this is going to be, you're just going to be orchestrating the administrative work rather than doing it yourself or delegating it to your office manager. So I think the biggest areas that we're excited about are the things that currently take up the most time. And so usually that's charting. That's why we started with AI Scribe, and that's just going to continue to get better and better. And then a lot of the back office work. Our big, ambitious, hairy, ambitious goal is we want to automate 80% of the front and back office work today. So, scheduling appointments, sending out reminders, filling out intake forms, sending out email marketing for, hey, it's end of the year, use your FSA benefit, use your insurance benefit. All of that will just be on autopilot within the next, 2 to 3 years. And then beyond, the much further one is, we always talk about the avatar of Jarvis from the movie Iron Man, where it's this like very smart AI assistant. You're still the star of the show, you're still the superhero, but you have someone who's right there. You can literally just talk to, and they will be able to do 80% of the tasks that need to be done. We think something honestly very similar like that is within 5 years in a typical practice.
Wow, I think that's really interesting. And I go back to the statement which I think has been floating around quite a bit in our industry that we won't be replaced by AI, but a practice that does not use AI will definitely be replaced by a practice that does. So I think it
Yes.
all comes back to adopting technology, whether it's just going digital and also AI. I think there is no way to kind of not survive without a technology. And yeah, if
Yeah.
you want to kind of grow within the industry.
Yeah. And I'd love to ask you what, as a provider, someone who has that clinical background, what are the parts that are most exciting to you about, some of the things that are going to be possible with AI either now or in the coming years?
I think definitely taking all these pain points and things that already does exist, if I have to think about like what more or how what add-ons I want to do, would be the fact that I'm not an expert in everything, right? I always have to sometimes refer the patient out or talk to my colleague or try to find an expertise who can help me with just making those decisions, whether should I keep it, should I refer that patient out, how should that follow-up be? Sometimes you end up seeing cases which you see like once in a couple of years, and I'm like, dude, I promise I studied this, but I need a refresher. So if I
Yeah,
could have an AI assistant who can also help me clinically, because
yeah,
I've already given my notes, they're scribing, they're like, hey, maybe you want to think about this, or like, pop up those clinical educational things that we have learned in the college and we forgot like 10 years down the line. I think
yeah,
those kind of AI assistants would be very interesting and supporting in practice, which is so busy, and it just helps me think as I go and does not make me feel like, oh, shoot, I should have thought about this. Or like, I just refer the patient out. I lost the money there, but maybe I could have kept that patient and followed up and have done something myself before referring
yeah,
that patient. So I think those kind of clinical assistants would be very helpful in the future beyond what you already are building today.
yeah. That's fantastic. No, it makes a ton of sense. Yeah, I'd love to show you our AI guidelines feature that we were talking about earlier. I think that would definitely help. Where you're like, hey, remind me what's the recommended follow up for primary open angle glaucoma, and what's the testing that I need to do? Yeah,
Yeah, I think those things like popping up from the scribe and telling me like directly instead of even me typing that, I think that would be great.
yeah,
And even all these fascinating things that are already being developed on the imaging side, if that all could be part of like one system, so I don't have to click in to 10 different systems and like go in and see like what's happening here, like what's going in there. The image goes in like 10 different places just to kind of get one AI read. I think
yeah.
that would be fantastic to kind of, just make my patient experience in terms of like educational and clinical side easy. I think that's always something that we'll all can look forward to.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
So we did talk a lot about Barti and we did talk about like how everything started and how it's helping. But I think it's time for our game segment, which is more about knowing you a little more better than, talking about the work stuff. Let's dive into a rapid fire. It's a simple game where I'll ask you a question. You just tell the first thing that comes to your mind. That's
Okay.
pretty much it to know a little more about you. So, are you
Okay.
ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. One word that describes party.
Innovative.
Your favorite cuisine.
Japanese.
All right. Your favorite destination.
Latin America.
All right. One thing people don't know about you.
I am a first generation college student. So I'm the first member of my family to graduate from university.
Wow. That's exciting. Coffee or tea while building a startup?
Got to be coffee. Need more caffeine. Yeah.
One book every founder should read.
I would say probably 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel.
All right. One tech trend you think is overrated.
I don't love the um like the creation of like videos and pictures using AI. I think that is overrated and overdone, and a lot of them look very weird. So
The one where like you jump into something and you disappear, those kind of.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think those are yeah. That's what I would say.
Interesting. One habit that changed your work life.
Color coding my calendar
Mhm.
so you can see exactly what you're spending time on, and yeah, where your time is going.
I think that's fantastic. You did fantastic in our rapid fire round. I definitely know next time we meet up, we definitely have to kind of go in for a sushi or a ramen,
Yeah,
a lunch or dinner. So I think that's definitely on, or maybe a coffee because you're a coffee person as well. So
yeah. I'd love that. Yeah, we're not too far away, so we'll have to get together in person for sure.
absolutely. Thank you once again, Colton, for sharing everything and doing everything that you're doing right now for the eye care industry. A quick reminder to everyone, like, do check it out. Do definitely try doing a demo and use the code NERDY to kind of get a $50 gift card. It's definitely worth checking it out. I was really impressed, and I'm sure you would be too. Before we close this episode, do you have a final takeaway message for all my listeners?
Yeah, I would say if you haven't taken a look, Barty really is changing the game when it comes to software in optometry. We really are ushering in this generational shift. If you haven't talked to us in a year or two, you should also reach out because we've changed and added so many things even in the last 3, 6, 9. 12 months. And so it's worth a quick demo and you get paid to do it. So we'll buy you lunch and come give us your feedback. If nothing else, we always love to hear what people like or what can be improved. And that's how we make it better.
Love that. And to all the listeners, I definitely encourage be a part of this change. Go out there, take this demo, and give your feedback. I think as an eye care practitioner, we all need to be supportive of these technologies so that we build something together and not feel that, oh, I wish I could change something and say it later on, right? So let's all be part of this change. And thank you once again, Colton, for your time and sharing everything that you did. With that, again, a very warm welcome to the Nerdy family. And it's a pleasure to have you here.
Likewise, this was a ton of fun. Thanks so much for having me.